Welcome. You have entered the realm of 1111 Talk Radio. Your host is Simran. It's time to discover your own language with the universe. Empower yourself, broaden your mind, open your heart, and discover who you are. Now, here's your host, Simran.
Welcome. It is a joy to be with you today, and we are going to be talking archetypes. Archetypes are a subject that have gone back a long time, and many times individuals will center in onto an archetype to support them in reaching a certain place, a certain goal, or mustering up the kind of energy and enthusiasm and expression that they require to be in the world in a different way. But what we don't often realize is that archetypes can have a light and a shadow side, that archetypes are something that we are here not only to fake it till we make it, but to really ground inside and discover that aspect within us so that it is truly embodied. But how do we do that? My guest today is going to help to illustrate how and why we would do that, and particularly around some of the feminine archetypes. Mara Branscombe is a yoga and meditation teacher, writer, mother, artist, ceremonialist, and spiritual coach who finds great joy in leading others along the path of self-transformation. She is passionate about weaving the art of mindfulness, self-care, mind-body practices, and earth-based rituals into her offerings. She's a regular contributor to Spirituality and Health magazine, Gaia and Wanderlust, and she is the author of 2 books, Ritual as Remedy and Sage, Huntress, Lover, Queen, which we are going to be talking about today. She is from my birthplace, Vancouver, Canada, and it is a beautiful book. I'd like to start the show off first simply sharing the introduction to her book, where she evokes the divine feminine way, revealing the archetypes. Inside the quiet company of your beloved self, count your blessings. Untangle the weight of worldly complexities long enough to breathe. And deeply, like the visionary on her soul-retrieving journey, gather the architecture inside your universal metamorphosis. We are building now. There is momentum. No longer run from the guilty, shamed, buried, deep, dark secrets. Rather, let them bubble up your spine and spill like forgotten sacred texts out of your mouth. Be a channel for the mythic night sky. The moon's revolution pulsates within. Accept the invitation to be a child of this miraculous earth's wild soul. Be maiden, mother, sage, huntress, lover, mystic, queen. You are of this ancient composition. The homecoming is your evolution. So what would happen if you greeted every day of your life as creative, intentional, and ceremonial adventure? What a beautiful poem and question to begin her book with. Again, we are talking about her new book, Sage, Huntress, Lover, Queen. Welcome, Mara, to 1111 Talk Radio.
Thank you for having me, and it was so lovely to hear you recite that poem and blessing. Thank you.
Well, it's a beautiful way to begin the book and to introduce individuals to aspects of themselves that are, I'm going to say, already awake in some way, because I have in my own life discovered that our multidimensional experience means that we have the light and the shadow always expressing. It's based on where we are looking through and expressing from. And so I think this is an important conversation, and I love how you weave through the book both the light and the shadow aspects of the archetypes, because so often individuals are looking for what they consider the light aspect, or the doing, the more aggressive expressing aspect of an archetype, and not considering how they might be expressing a lower vibration of that same archetype.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I love that you're bringing this forward and that, once we start to go there and recognize and honor and become more and more aware of our own shadow, we become more compassionate human beings, not only for ourselves, but we get to have compassion for others because we can recognize the shadow playing out and we can take it less personally, in fact.
That's such an important piece because I think people get too personally attached to not having a shadow, or if they have a shadow, sometimes even that can become such an attachment to continuously focusing on working on that they lose sight of the light that also exists. Can you share a little opening to the wisdom inside of feminine archetypes, and especially for now, why these specific 7 archetypes you feel are important for women?
Yes. So would you like me to give you an example of one archetype when in its essence and in its shadow, for example?
However you'd like to go.
Okay. So let's unpack this a little bit. I'm going to choose the Huntress in this moment. And the Huntress in her full power is the energy of the embodied warrior. And the Huntress is often the activist, the one that, is passionately, becoming an entrepreneur or someone who really believes in their cause and they follow through. And now the shadow of the Huntress is burnout, over-identification with the masculine, in fact, and this constant striving, which hardens one and pulls one away, in fact, from the essence of the true Huntress, which is to be powerful and soft and graceful and clear all at once.
I think in our world of empowering ourselves as women, and if we look back to the feminist movement and all the way forward, from my witnessing eye, it seems as if there's a large degree of women that have become so masculine, that have really leaned into so much doing and so much busying and overworking or shouldering the burdens of too much. And yet it seems to be something that goes largely unconscious. And I'm often even more surprised when it is occurring within even our own spiritual community, because it becomes more about the agenda or the drive or the attainment or the business or the money or the clients or the different things that women think that they have to attain. Can you speak to the Huntress and to that issue that is current so that is recalibrated for women?
Yes. And here's one way to really, for all the listeners, for myself on a daily basis, I ask myself, what systems am I feeding that I no longer believe in or want to be a part of? For example, capitalist, patriarchal culture, that if I'm playing that game of hustle and never becoming still enough to recalibrate my own system, I am actually feeding that paradigm that I actually no longer believe in, nor do I want to be a part of. Yet it takes an awareness to get there. We can become so over-identified with the masculine or with this culture that we have to prove ourselves, prove our worth, be the best, do it all. As women, we're incredible. Our capacity is incredible. Or whatever gender you identify as, or whatever lens you're looking through. Just because we have that much capacity doesn't mean it has to be at 100% all the time. And what do you do to take it down and recalibrate your system? And so, and especially in the wellness industry, and we know this, and yet it is visible, and I am also witness to that especially when we're entrepreneurs or we're carving our own path in this way, the tendency to do it all is probably larger than not. And so it really is about pausing listening, having a daily meditation practice is essential to untangle oneself from the unconscious feeding or the conscious feeding of systems and places that we no longer actually need to be a part of.
I love how you touched on the fact that women are so capable. We really can take on so much and accomplish a lot. We tend to be incredible multitaskers. I know you're a mom, you're an author, you're a ceremonialist. You do a lot of things for a lot of people. And I think most women, when we get to this place of realizing, well, I can get this done and that done and all of these things and run a household and a family at the same time, we lose sight of that part of us that needs the cycles and the rhythms, that needs the rest, that needs some of the things that do actually help us remember who we are. I think one of the big issues is this drive for significance that exists in our Western world, where we've been kind of bred to try to be significant, to try to save, to try to go out there and help people in so many ways. But that significance, to me, there's a flip side, and it's almost as if in trying to be seen, we're missing who we really need to see, which is ourselves. So how does someone embody all 7 archetypes at the same time, or are these stages?
Great question. And so what I'll do is I'll just name the 7 archetypes that I'm working with, and then I'll talk a little bit about, how we can access them all. And one thing I'll say before that is, this could be helpful, is that archetypes are not stereotypes. Archetypes are codes, they're frequencies, they're formulas, they're alchemical in a way. They're both conscious and unconscious. And when we become aware of them, we get to understand more about ourselves. It's definitely a mirror for us. So I am working with the Maiden, the Mother, the Sage, the Huntress, the Lover, the Mystic, the Queen. And I bring in the Weaver at the end of the book as a way to embody all of the archetypes, that the Weaver lives in all of us. And so it is that at certain times and cycles of your life, you will identify more and connect more with a specific archetype. And then once that work is kind of embodied within you, let's say the sage is the wise elder within us. The sage has the intuitive capacity. The sage is the healer. And, so some of us just coming into our full, resonance of who we are, the truth of who we are. I find often a lot of us will resonate with that sage and also in the spiritual kind of community or the mystic. And yet we are not limited to that at all. And so then, once that sage becomes, oh yeah, I've got that elder energy in me now. I'm no longer pushing away aging. I'm actually merging with this rite of passage, which is maturation. I love my wrinkles. I love my lines. I love my changing body. That kind of energy, right? So that's where the archetypes really come into their power. So if I've worked with the sage and I've embodied her, I recently turned 50. So I've definitely just been really working with this healthy aging. How can I empower aging to myself? And so then, maybe now I'm working, let's say, with the Lover and a deeper form of love, a deeper form of self-love, a form of love that I see as, the seasons shift, as the moon rises, as the stars glimmer, more of a cosmic kind of love that brings great meaning to one's daily existence.
That's beautiful. And I love how in the book you also talk about each of these archetypes in connection to an element, such as Mother connected to the earth and Sage connected to water. And
Yes.
that reminder of those elements, how do you guide individuals in reconnecting with those elements within and threading that to the archetype?
Well, that's an interesting question. And first of all, as a ceremonialist, when I hold sacred circle, and I do private healing sessions, I will call forward the elements based on the pagan wheel of the year. I'm English, Irish, Scottish, so I've been working with the Celtic pagan wheel of the year for many, many moons. And so what happens when I call forward those elements in those directions is it gives us an anchor right away. It allows us to connect with something that's larger than our ego or larger than, current life happenings. It reminds us, oh yes, we are of that nature. We are of water, earth, air, fire, and ether. And so when I'm guiding, people through the archetypal wisdom, it can be so transformative. For example, working with the mother, and the mother meaning the mother of how you mother self, not necessarily children. So I really want to make that clear that I'm working with all, men, women, whatever gender you identify by. How do you care for yourself deeply? How do you mother yourself deeply? And so the mother's connected to the earth. So when we start to work with mother, we remind ourselves, yes, I can be rooted. I can access calm even when I'm in chaos. I can remind myself that I'm blossoming at times, and then I'm drawing in at times to recalibrate my system. So there's so many beautiful metaphors that I feel are quite palpable and digestible to work with in any given moment.
It appears that, particularly women, we are this intersection of cosmic force and earth and ground, of the seasons, the cycles, the rhythms, the planets, the elements, that we become this intersection. And yet there's a part of us that gets caught up in certain narratives. And I love how through the book you guide women, or guide men and women, because both can read this book, through tracking their narrative. Why is it important to track our narrative?
First of all, I want to say thank you for bringing that intersection of cosmic force forward, that we can all be that. That is powerful. And that is us when we've worked through our narratives. When we haven't worked through, for example, the stories that, we were passed down, the behaviors, the patterns, ancestral patterns, known or unknown, karmic patterns. Sometimes we don't even know why that, we continue to have this story that we are not worthy of love. Yet that is our work in this lifetime. And that's why it is so important that if I'm going to continue to carry around the story that I am not worthy of love, I am going to bring that into every relationship that I encounter. And that is going to inform the entire trajectory of my life. Yet if I rise to that and I hold it as my medicine for this lifetime and do the work and put the work in, receiving support, counselors, therapists, healers, doing the personal work, showing up for the meditation daily, then I will begin to morph that story and I will begin to know myself deeper. And that is, it's so worth it. Putting the work in is so worth it.
And this is almost a braiding of both mind work and heart work to discern these narratives and understand how they are affecting our inner and outer world. Yes?
Yes, that's a wonderful way to put it, because everything is connected, mind, body, the science is there now. And so, we need to do the mind work and the physical work. And that's where the embodiment practices come through in all of my work and in the books, where I'll give meditations, I'll give creative adventures, movement patterns, these kinds of things to also encourage the body to release the narrative that it may be holding.
I've found that myself in the deconditioning process, because we do carry those ancestral memories, even if we don't remember them, and yet somehow the body knows. And I love a line that you have in the book where you say, heart work is to discern the true motivation behind each task. And I would believe that that narrative is critical in understanding when it comes to that motivation, because we're either being driven by those past childhood experiences or patterns, and that will be conscious or unconscious. Talk a little bit more about the motivations behind different tests.
Mm-hmm. So in any given moment, you can ask yourself, what is true in this moment? So that helps us get to the core of the motivation. What is true in this moment? Because, a lot of times we'll go into that fight or flight and that reactivity mode. For example, in our intimate relationships or our family relationships, we will experience this and witness this. And it's a great way to practice. And so you can ask yourself before you say something reactionary or defensive, because of course you have to, you want to prove your opinion, or, you can even track that back. So when I do that, I go, oh, I can see myself as a little girl standing there trying to, defend my position in my family because I was so passionate about what was true for me in that moment. So I carry that, that's part of my work. I carry that forward and I can see when it arises. And of course, I can't, I don't always catch it in the moment, but the work is, forgiveness. The work is compassion. And the work is really to get curious about, and journaling is a great way to do that. You can really unpack situations. Well, when I had that, I was in that heated moment with a colleague, and I felt like I had to really do this or that. And then you can just kind of take this scan back to other times in your life. When else did you feel that way? Is there a pattern there? And so, this is kind of some of the darker, ugly, not pretty work that we get a chance to do because we have the knowledge, we have the skill, it is right here for us if we are open to it.
It's not always pretty and not always easy, but it is some of the richest work that we can do. I want to go back to something you said when you were speaking about the mother and how that is about mothering ourselves. And we do live in a very outwardly focused world. So when it comes to these archetypes, is the first place always to go inside before we go out?
I would say yes. And this is why, is that we have and can empower guidance from within. And then we can trust that we are being supported from external forces through the internal guidance. And therefore we are supported in both. And the tendency also with the over-identification of the masculine or the culture that we've lived in, the culture that has existed, for hundreds of years, is that it's that reaching out in a way. It's that not trusting that internal voice, And so this is really important to hold sacred, in fact, is that deep down we know, and we have to practice listening.
And there can tend to be this impulsiveness or this reaction to quickly go back out after coming in. Mm-hmm. How do you discern when it is to actually follow the impulse to go back out?
When there's not a backstory attached to it, or when there's not a motivation that I know is attention-seeking behavior. So that's our intuitive nature and power is, your intuition will come forward when there's not a backstory attached to it. By that I mean when there's not I'm going to do this because, I know I'm going to, get the attention or the praise from that person or community. But it has to be almost like it's a golden thread. That golden thread, the spark of the idea, that drawing in, that resonance, the calm, the quiet, the surge of love or passion. And it's all an experiment. It's a play, it's also, we can open it it to be playful, not so serious, but there is that feeling, and I think we can all attest to that, and probably have all experienced that, where your intuition, when it comes to you, it feels good. It doesn't come with an attachment or a backstory or even a final outcome. It just is what it is. And then that's when we go back out and perhaps explore how we offer that to the greater good of humanity, or to the greater good of our own personal life.
And there's also the flip side of that, where we end up in a shadow feminine space where it's too hidden, it's too quiet, it's suppressed, repressed, as opposed to standing in that middle ground where there's an equivalent masculine and feminine. What would you say to inspire the action to move that more into balance?
I would say that your work matters. Your voice matters. We need your creative and passionate expressions out in the world for the greater good of humanity. I've coached a lot of folks on this, and a lot of times it is that fear of, judgment or perfectionist tendencies, which, these are all shadows of the feminine archetypes that I bring forward. Some really core stuff that we fear how our expression will be received out into the world, because there's work to be done there, that at one point as a child we did that and we got diminished somehow. And so it's now about learning how to be free with it, and let's let go of everyone else's judgment. It doesn't matter. Let's let go of, it needing to be perfect. Actually, let's go for like messy, imperfect, a little more wild, a little more rugged, like Mother Earth herself. And that's what I would encourage.
Feed the center of your universe with a steady magnetic attention. Pay attention long enough, and you will see that this is where the magic dwells. There will always be challenges, change, and the unknown. And yet, the sun continues to bless you through it all. Build your capacity to maneuver life's wild rides. From the darkest nights to the brightest days, fill the center of your universe with gold. This is from Mara Branscombe's book, Sage, Huntress, Lover, Queen. I invite you to go to her website, marabranscombe.com. You can find that link in the show notes. And you may also want to pay particular attention to the Radiant Soul Retreat at the Haramara Resort, March 2nd through 9th. It's coming up in 2024. And she also conducts ongoing moon ceremonies and soul work courses. And those are all available on her site. Again, my guest today is Mara Branscombe, and I invite you to visit her website and pick up her books, Ritual as Remedy and Sage, Huntress, Lover, Queen. We'll be right back after these messages.
Follow Voice America at Facebook.com/Voice America for juicy updates from your favorite radio shows and podcasts.
Have you seen 1111? Do you wonder why certain numbers keep showing up in your life? 11, 111, 22, 33, 444. People all over the world are seeing 1111 and learning the language of universal communication. Subscribe to 1111 Magazine today. www.1111mag.com. 1111 Magazine is a bi-monthly print publication that offers a rich multi-sensory experience. As you engage with experts and topics of consciousness, become enlightened, empowered, and energized, so you live a passionate and authentic life of conscious choices. 1111 Magazine, a daily staple for lifting the mindset, discovering the heart, and stepping into conscious living. 1111 Magazine. Order now at www.1111mag.com. 1111mag.com.
Do you want more? More joy, more abundance, more power and presence? How would it feel to have more loving relationships, more empowered community, greater fulfillment and life purpose, the 1111 Mastermind community inspires, empowers, guides, and supports transformation. Shift your mind, expand your heart, deepen insights, let go and chart a new course, dream a new dream. The 1111 Mastermind community is an online portal for personal transformation and soulful expansion. Go to courses.1111mag.com. That's courses.1111mag.com. Change begins with you. Let it be simple, convenient, and transformative. The time is now. Step through the 1111 gateway. Courses.1111mag.com.
It's your world. Motivate, change, succeed. VoiceAmericaEmpowerment.com.
You are listening to 1111 Talk Radio. Simran is an award-winning author, publisher of 1111 Magazine, powerful speaker of wisdom, and a life mentor. Find out more at IamSimran.com. Now, back to 1111 Talk Radio.
Before we get back to my wonderful guest and her incredible book, Sage, Huntress, Lover, Queen, I want to mention my brand new multidimensional trilogy. It is a set of oracles, and these are books that you keep by your bedside while you're reading other things. Simply open a book or each one every single day, and you will be given a nugget that is very, very powerful. Living the 7 blessings of human experience is personhood. It is the identity. It is the part of us that is walking through the world, somewhat conscious, mostly unconscious, even though we want to believe we are conscious. Being the 7 illusions that derail personal power, purpose, and peace has to do with 7 illusions that we have all bought into, and we don't realize how these illusions operate in our lives. We are not as well tapped into how these come together to actually create the collective landscape that we experience and the power that we each have in embracing the shadow, the animal, the monster, and even the demon, so that we not only shift ourselves, but we become a sacred activist for the world. And finally, knowing the 7 human expressions of grace. This is a book to individuals touch their humanity. We think we have grasped our humanity, or we believe that humanity is some larger collective that's out there. But have we really connected to our true humanity? That is the grace we must give ourselves. So I hope you'll pick up my trilogy as well when you order Mara Branscombe's book, Sage, Huntress, Lover, and Queen. They will be wonderful adjuncts to each other. You can go to her website, marabranscombe.com. That link is in the show description. Again, check out her retreat that's coming up March 2nd through 9th. And also, you might want to look up her ongoing moon ceremonies and soul work courses. All of those are available on her website. To Mother Thyself is a great body of work, tending the hearth of the heart, ensuring nourishment is provided, rhythms are followed, prayers are created, memories are collected, stars caught, seeds planted, hardships endured, and challenges overcome, seedling to old growth, sun to moon, sea to shore, wolf to pup, mother to child, you to you. This is me mothering myself awake with the magic and the mystery that makes this earth stir awake. This is from Mara's book, and I think you'll really enjoy a lot of the beautiful poetic pieces that are in it, as well as the different meditations, rituals, journaling prompts, and ways that you can track your narrative so that you can get to the subtle of what might be holding you back. Welcome back, Mara. I want to talk about a couple of things that were mentioned in the last segment. One of those had to do with circles, and I want you to express how you feel the power of circles, or women coming together in circles, supports their archetypes in being more empowered.
Mm-hmm. Gathering, talking, sharing a meal, sharing prayers, sharing the hard times. All of this is so important, more important than we know. And every time I gather in circle, I am struck that there is a powerful healing that takes place. And I want to encourage the listeners to somehow, if this does speak to you, next full moon or new moon, or even a dinner party can be made intentional simply by, lighting candles and each person going around and sharing their gratitudes. So this, all of a sudden, what becomes, the ordinary becomes the sacred by the way we gather.
I think ceremony is so integral, especially in these days and times, and more so because our younger generations need to see that type of life. It's almost as it has slipped slowly and steadily away from the indigenous times and when women gathered under the red tent, and even when women were activists, moving toward a movement. There's something that's slowly being lost by not letting our younger generations see us gather in those ways, share vulnerably, and share in ceremony. Talk about the power of ceremony.
The power of ceremony, what it does is it lands us in real time. And suddenly, when we're gathering intentionally, the candle is lit, the tea is served, the feeling of being supported, not only by, who you are with, but by a greater force, actually. It comes forward. And it allows us to soften our guard, perhaps, and actually feel that we are connected to something greater and deeper. And it can bring great meaning. It can go from feeling alone and disconnected to a feeling of being connected, and moving in a direction that has greater spiritual meaning. And part of our soul is, I believe our souls are thirsty for this. They're hungry for this right now. And it is that we can create these circles, even ourselves. And I think that, part of my work is also to empower people that, yes, they can go and craft these intentional ways and bring greater meaning to their lives.
The other word that I want to go back to from the previous segment was the word embodiment. I think that there are certain words that have become cliche or cliquish in their expression, and they've lost some of their true depth of meaning as to what they represent and the power they have to increase our vibration and our frequency, or, as you said, even our own inner connection so that we can connect to those that are outside. Can you speak a little more to what embodiment means to you as a woman, and then also what embodiment really means when we're looking at archetypes?
Embodiment means to me that the rulers in the mind, the tricky mind, is not running the show. And that one can have a feeling of being more centered within oneself, almost as if the consciousness of a busy mind becomes more spacious, and it's as if we are inhabiting from the center of our body. And that might seem esoteric, but I'll give an example. In my morning meditation, my intention every morning, I meditate, and it's non-negotiable. And sometimes it's 5 minutes and sometimes it's 30, but it happens. And I ask for neutrality. In the center of my body, I ask for a feeling of staying connected at the center of my body. And that's it. And then I listen, I feel, I breathe into that area. Then I have all these other things I do. So that to me is becoming embodied, is that so many things are overthought. We're overthinking. We're calculating. We're scrolling. Everything is happening up there in the brain at a rapid rate. And so, what are you doing to consciously say, "Hey, beautiful center of my body, what's going on? How can I listen? How can I connect?" So that translates. Then, if I'm going to bring that archetype over to the archetypes, then the archetypes, I believe, and this is how I framed it in the book and how I felt it in my own body, they all have the potential to live at the center of our body. So it's almost like this sphere, or this woven sphere of, you could use whatever color. I use the color of the golden sun, and that all archetypes they can all live within us. And that whenever we need support and the intelligence of that archetype, we can bring it forward, because we've planted the seed that it all lives within us, and that it isn't far reaching. In fact, it's right here for us.
You speak about this in the book. You talk about the pillars of creativity, and what you've described as your practice even follows those pillars of creativity, which are intention, presence, compassion, action, and accountability. And I think that that's something that we have to really cultivate and value ourselves enough to even be worthy of our own time. I think so often, because of the busy world, we forget that our presence is enough, that we as women are not required to do anything, that it is our presence, and that creativity will shoot out of that presence. But oftentimes that level of presence brings about a lot of the emotions that we wanted to deny or be distracted from, or the memories or the feelings that have been deeply embedded in our body. I love how you talk within the Huntress about service and making medicine out of the pain and hardship that we have. And right now in our world, that seems more important than ever.
Thank you for bringing that all forward. The presence.
How would you guide women to staying so present to their pain, their hardship, their grief, their sadness, their envy, their anger, all of those things that will writhe right up their spine, as you say?
It is creating enough time in a day to feel, in fact, and then to ask oneself, what am I hiding at this moment? Or, and having that journal standing by is such a powerful tool. When you feel that, coming up your spine, when you feel that block in your heart, when you feel that flutter in your stomach of fight or flight, and it's specific to a relationship, or, social media can bring that forward a lot as well. So it's like, those are all points that we can come back to ourselves and ask, what is true in this moment? And can I be more curious about why I'm feeling this right now? And then write it down, or share it with a best friend that holds you in absolute no judgment, but full presence. Or, walk in nature with it, and, allow it. I run in the morning, and I call it my spirit runs, and I consciously, anything that's coming through me that doesn't feel of a good vibration, I say, Mother Earth, I am here. I am honoring you. I am releasing what no longer serves. And then I have a tree that I go to, that I sit against, I hug, I commune with, and it becomes a relationship with nature that is very generative.
And I really think that that's such a key. We have to move from how we were nurtured into that remembrance of our nature. I know that we are about to run out of time, because you're going to have to leave us a little early on this particular show. So I'd love to close out with a little bit about the lover. And the thing I want to key into is the revolutionary self-acceptance that you talk about. That seems like a very powerful place for not only stepping into one's power, but opening up a geyser of creativity.
Mm-hmm.
Can you speak a little bit to that radical, revolutionary self-acceptance?
Yeah, radical, revolutionary self-acceptance is when we've done the work, that we no longer push away from our own body, but we enter our body as the temple it is. And I know this is a very challenging concept for many, and it is so worthy of doing the work to become supported in your own home, your own vessel, your own temple that you walk around with daily. And so that means that all those times you have judgment about yourself or your body, or you don't like what you see, that is the work we need to do. If we can merge with that, suddenly fight or flight goes down, nervous system gets regulated, we create a magnetic energy from within. We make different choices on what we put into our bodies, or also whose energy comes into our field. It's mind, body, spirit all the way with the body. All the way. So I encourage all of us and myself, and that's why doing the meditations and doing the nature work and doing the journaling and healthy aging practices are going to be what we're going to be able to shift this paradigm of over-identification with the masculine and repressing or putting women into this, a box of like what is beautiful and what is not. We can be the trailblazers of this. We can reframe this entire story if we choose to at this time in the world.
It is your birthright to live in a way that is unapologetically you, wild, free, peaceful, joyous, steady, and spirited all at once. The world is ready for you to express your true feelings and cast your soul gifts far and wide. When you answer the call to dive in and commit to embodying the divine feminine, you have arrived on the healing path of the future. It becomes a lifelong study of compassionate living and authentic loving. Every day becomes both an adventure and a ceremony. This is how dreams come alive. This is from Mara Branscombe's book. Thank you, Mara, for being on 1111 Talk Radio. I know you've got to run your kids to school, and I just want to say I appreciate the depth of which you have shared within your book. Please check her out at marabranscombe.com. Pick up both of her books, Ritual as Remedy and Sage Huntress, Lover Queen. And as we let her go, I'm going to share a little more of her work by reading the section on the Weaver's work to close out the show. Take care, Mara. Come back to see us.
Thank you.
The Weaver never knows the final creation, yet you begin with a passion that burns as bright as the sun. The poet never knows what words will fall onto the page, yet your calling to express is all-consuming. Singer, dancer, storyteller, sculptor, you just take a giant leap of faith. Catch the fleeting snapshots of shadow to light, the wonder missions, the deep sea dives, the path of spirit up the mountain is rugged. Unravel the threads bound into your artist spirit. Have courage to sit with the loom, weaving the world's complexities until they become answered prayers. Hand to paintbrush, songbirds at dusk, salted ocean tears. Heart shatters into a million pieces, yet somehow the threads find their way home. Spinning, looping, braiding, they become intertwined, gifting us with ancient love songs. Whole, wild, rugged, and powerful beyond measure, a single strand has the potential to transform the whole world. Open, soft, wildly inviting. The womb of the divine feminine births the world awake. It's a beautiful book. I do invite you to check it out and utilize it as a tool for evolving the feminine frequency within you. Whether you're a man or a woman, there are beautiful nuggets within here and wonderful practices to support you on your journey. Again, it is Sage Huntress, Lover Queen. And while you're at it, pick up my own books, my new trilogy, Living, Being, and Knowing. Until next time, I am Simran, in love, of love, with love, and as love. Be well.
Thank you for opening your mind to a new reality, your heart to greater compassion, and your experience of aliveness with 1111 Talk Radio. Join host Simran next Tuesday at 8 a.m. Pacific, 11 a.m. Eastern Time to step through the gateway of conscious living here on the Voice America Empowerment Channel. Remember, you are not on the journey. You are the journey.